To do today, folks, is we're going to cover the purl stitch. As I said before, we covered the knit stitch, and here we just have a small sample right here of the purl stitch. And I'm going to blow your minds a little bit because a lot of people don't realise that the purl stitch is basically the opposite of the knit stitch. And so the front side of a purl stitch is this, it's a purl bump. The back side of a purl stitch is this, the knit V, and vice versa. The front of a knit is the V, the back of a knit is a purl bump. So basically, you're doing the same thing in reverse. I know that's a little hard to grasp, but that's what you're doing. So if I show you this, if I show you this piece right here, and this is what you call stockinette stitch, and where it's all knit stitches on the front and purl stitches on the back. These are purl bumps, these are knit stitches. So this is the front of a knit stitch, this is the back of a knit stitch, and you knit in one row and you purl in one row. So you knit this row and you get the V, you purl this row, you get the bump, is the front of the purl row, but the back of a purl row is a V. How confused are you just now?
No, I actually think it makes sense now.
Oh, does it?
I do. I think, you know, when you think, oh, am I going to knit, am I going to purl, and everyone's learning, and we have everybody knit, and what you end up with is basically the purl bumps everywhere. Like,
purl bumps,
you know, the purl bumps everywhere. So it can't, maybe for people that just strictly knit, it might make some sense now. Like, oh, well, then I guess purling isn't too difficult.
So what I wanted to show you, my plan was to make much more than this last night, but actually I went out to dinner with a friend and I got home late, so I was laid in bed trying to get a start here. So what I wanted to show you is these first couple of rows right here, these are knit stitches, knit every row. And then I switched over, you can see where I switched over here to purl every row. But when you see them, it's the same thing, it's identical, which shows you that it's the same stitch in reverse.
It is.
See that?
Look at that.
Yeah? So, without further ado, I'm not going to talk too much about the knit stitch because I don't want to confuse you, but you can go back and look at the knit video. So, to purl, you're going to have your yarn in front, like this. You're going to start with the yarn in front. And your right needle is going to enter the left stitch in the front of the stitch from right to left. And you're going to go in with your right needle from right to left, okay, into the front of the stitch. You've got your yarn in the front here, and your yarn is going to wrap around the needle. See that? From the front, around, back to the front, and then you're going to slip this needle through the loop that you just made. And then you're going to slide your old stitch off. Okay, I'm going to do that again. You keep your yarn in the front, okay? And what I mean by in the front is if you were knitting, your yarn would be on this side at the back. So your yarn is in the front. You're going to put your right needle into the left stitch from right to left in the front of the stitch. Here's your yarn in the front. You're going to take your yarn, wrap it from front around the needle, back to the front again. Here's the loop that you created from your old stitch, and you're going to pull it through and let this slide off. So if you're familiar with the knit stitch, you can see clearly that this is the opposite of the knit stitch. So again, yarn is in the front, right needle into right to left side in the front of this stitch. This is the stitch from your previous row. You're creating a new row, yarn comes around, you pull it through the loop. Let me do that again like this so you can see. I'm pulling it through the loop that we just created. This stitch now is going to come off the needle and becomes the row below. Can you see right here? row below. This now is your live stitch. You're creating your new row here. This came from here, is the row below now. Again, yarn in front, right needle into left stitch from right to left at the front. Take your working yarn, wrap it around from front, around your needle to front, and then slip this through and slide off. Anybody have any questions about this? Judy, yes, I do recall the date of the knit tutorial, and I was trying to work on it today. I'm actually trimming it in YouTube, and once I finish trimming it, I'm going to post it for you. Okay. All right. Do we need to continue that?
I don't think so. The thing I would say that for me, the biggest thing that people run into is forgetting to slide the old stitch off. So if you don't and you go back and it looks a little wonky, that's what you did. It's not that you did anything wrong. It was the forgetting of pulling. That's what I run into when I help people or we get started and when we teach is that that's, and it's not a mistake. It's just that last... You're always afraid of dropping, right? So I think people, like when they first learn, they're afraid of dropping that stitch.
And they don't take it off.
Yes.
So we call that an incomplete stitch. And it does, you're right. It happens a lot when you're a beginner. So you do everything that you should be doing, right? And you do this, and then...
Like, I don't know. It's like they don't pull it off, or it...
Oh, I know what it is. You don't pull it through, but you pull it off.
Yes,
and it ends up like this.
And so it's like a weird yarn over. And it's not a mistake. It's just you forgot to just complete. You forgot you didn't complete it.
So you take your yarn round, and then instead of coming through and pulling off,
you just pull off.
You don't come through and you pull off, and you end up with it like this. And that is a very common mistake
and very easily fixed.
Yeah, very easily fixed. All you have to do is take it back over here, do it again, and complete your stitch, like pulling it through this loop before you pull it off this side. Very straightforward. Now, sometimes in, I did want to say the difference between a knit and a purl stitch is as you're knitting, as you're purling this stitch, you are transferring this from your left needle to your right needle purl ways. When you're knitting, you're transferring knit ways. What difference does that make? The difference is that when you transfer in purl ways, you're not twisting this stitch. When you're transferring knit ways, this stitch is being rotated. Can you see that? And that's how it lies differently, and that's how it presents differently. That you're transferring it with a little twist, and your yarn's also coming from the back. So when you are slipping stitches, most often you'd want to slip a stitch. There are times that you slip stitches without twisting your stitch, but mostly you want to slip purl ways unless it says otherwise. So if it says slip a stitch, you go in the same as you would a purl, like here. You'd go in from right to left in the front, and you just slip it right over. And this way your stitch has not been twisted at all. See? It remains the same. So, anybody have any questions about the purl stitch? Speak now or forever hold your peace. If you're working on something and you're not sure, was my last row a purl row or a knit row, you know when you see the purl bumps right here, if you're doing a stockinette stitch, when you see the purl bumps, you know that your last row was a purl row because your purl bumps are at the front.
Right.
Okay. If you're coming to your row, and I know this is hard because we're just doing the purl stitch.
Right.
But if you have just completed a knit row, you can see that you have the knit V's. Okay. But all of our rows here are going to be purls, so it's a bit of a moot point. But when you get to the point that you're going to be doing stockinette stitch, where it's knit on one side and it's purl on the other side, when you can see that it's this purl, you know that you're on this row. You can see that your last one actually was a knit because it was a purl on the back side.
Right, but if you're looking at your yarn and everything's on the left-hand needle, you know, you're twisting,
you can see
look
it,
at the bumps, you're like, oh, I'm on the purl side.
I'm on the purl side because it's the bumps.
Yeah.
Yeah. So